by the time you are watching this, the preview event will be over, but I'm recording this now so that we've got a little bit of a fix while we wait for the next preview event to come in November. So I'm filming these things ahead of time. I wanted to showcase decks that I played during the preview event that I really enjoyed or was successful with, and this time around it's going to be the Fiora Shen combo deck. You probably ran into this if you played it all during the preview event, or at least have seen other people play it or myself play it if you were watching me on Twitch, for example. So this deck is entirely based around winning with Fiora. So I'm going to start by highlighting that, and then we'll go through the deck. And you try to win with Fiora because she levels up when she's killed 2 enemies. And then if you've killed 4 enemies and survived, you just straight up win the game. So she's an alternate win condition, and you try to do that by keeping her alive, and you do that with barrier. So everything else in this deck is very barrier centric and or like combat trick centric, and it'll make sense here in a moment. So starting right out of the gate here, you've got this 1-drop that gets +2/+0 whenever an ally gets barrier. Now that is a permanent +2/+0. That is not until end of turn. So this thing comes down on turn 1, and in this particular deck, it can snowball very, very hard. I was running a pair of rushes because it's another cheap combat trick. Giving Fiora a quick attack, for example, can be very relevant in terms of like keeping her alive. Bright Steel Protector grants barrier, synergizes with this and everything else going on. Key Guardian here gives barrier to an ally in hand and lets you draw. This lets you kind of pre-barrier Fiora so that when you play her on your attack turns, you can go immediately into combat and things like that. Single combat, this is a way for you to have Fiora attack other enemies, for example, and then also still win the combat she's in, or if they're trying to not block Fiora when you're attacking, or they do something. When I say not block, she has Challenger, so you can force it, but sometimes they'll play an effect where they sacrifice one of their own minions, for example, and then you're like, oh, well, I didn't get the kill with Fiora. You can still use single combat to trigger those. Deny is just here to, again, kind of keep your Fiora alive. If they try to hit her with hard removal, you're trying to prevent that. Prismatic Barrier, just keep her alive. I'm running Blade Keeper. It's a great way to pump her up or some of your other minions up. I know not everybody was running this, but I was actually having a decent amount of success with it, so I'm keeping it in. Repost is, again, all about barrier, keeping her alive. Shen here grants a barrier to the unit it supports, so he pairs perfect with Fiora. It's like giving her a barrier every turn, and then again, getting barriers on things every turn is a great way to snowball this. As I said, this thing can snowball hard because there's a lot of barriers in this deck. Speaking of a lot of barriers, Spirit's Refuge, this is how you stabilize as well as keep things alive. The lifesteal is very relevant. Will of Ionia is your own combat trick to keep things alive, and in a pinch, in an absolute pinch, you can actually bounce your own Fiora if necessary. And then I was running 2 Judgments at the top end. I know some people were running 3, but it's kind of the card that you want to try to draw every game, but you only want to draw one of them. So I was only running 2. And this is your late game closer. So if you're not getting like a snowball start with Fiora, having her on the board in a big combat and then popping Judgment sometimes can just win the game on its own. So that's the deck. And with these videos, I'm always going through the deck, talking through the card choices and why they're in there, and then I'm also including one game so you can see how the deck performs in a gameplay situation, and we're gonna go do that now. Alright, so we are jumping into a game here, and it's against Piltover and Noxus. There's a couple of different deck archetypes that this could be. We're not gonna start with the 4 drops. Fiora's really important, so we certainly want to start with that. We'll keep the 1 barrier as well. Alright, much better. We at least got a 1-drop. And a great 2-drop to follow up with. So we're going to certainly start with our 1-drop. As I double clutch that, my apologies. And then we'll be able to barrier that and go into combat, which will feel pretty good.
Got your back.
And as I said, this is a permanent +2/+0, so these can absolutely get out of control very, very quickly if left alone. 2 Will of Ionias here. That's going to be a little bit clunky. Alright, so they're going to go with a 4-3. which is a lot of stats, but we're still going to go to attack here. Mostly because even if they trade here, that's still us getting a lot of value. I wonder if they're on the Draven Jinx deck. Because I found a Draven Jinx deck that I was having a lot of fun with. And you can expect a video on that as well. Alright, so we also found a Judgment. And speak of the devil, there's Draven. But they're basically out of mana. So we'll go ahead and get the Fiora down now. Because we can challenge Draven this next turn and give her the old barrier.
Let's do this.
We're just going to take the damage this turn. But next turn we're going to try to go in and then just hope they don't have a combat trick for us. Like I say, they're thinking it through. So they're going to discard with the spinning axe. We're going to take some damage. Alright, so this is burst.
Strike quickly, strike twice.
So we're gonna just go ahead and jump right into this. So they have to have spells to respond to this, basically. But our goal really here is, one, get kills on Fiora, but two, also eat that Draven. If they didn't have Draven on the board, we likely would have just taken our time. We would have developed Shen instead of using the prismatic barrier from hand sort of thing.
Now we're cooking.
But we can go ahead and likely get this developed here this next turn. We just really wanted to get rid of Draven before they had the chance to get that steamroll in. So our Fiora has the 1 kill now. 1 more will level her up. 3 more and we just win the game, regardless of their health. Now, I will say, one of the things I see people do, at least during the preview event, I was seeing people do it. They were focusing kind of all in on just trying to win with Fiora, and you can do that. But you're going to notice that I'm also still pressuring their health total, because you don't want to get into a situation where you've all in on this and then suddenly Fiora is dead and they're still at, you know, 1,000,000 health and you have no alternate way to win. So I believe the best way to pilot this deck is to essentially kind of come at them both ways. So they're gonna be trying to do this. We're gonna give her a barrier. We're going to eat this, though, because it has quick attack. We don't want to jump in front of that quite yet. We're just going to carry over our spell damage here. Now, we do have to worry about if they find a Jinx. They're pretty low on cards at this point. They'll absolutely be able to level up their Jinx. Alright, this time around we're going to develop the Shen. Because we'll still have mana. Because of the spell mana, we'll still have mana back for combat tricks if they try something. But we want the Shen for the free barrier, and you always want it to be Shen then Fiora, because you want Shen having your Fiora to the right, because that's the way support works. And so he's going to grant her the barrier. Then we're going to take the challenge here, because again, we want to pressure health totals while also working on this. So she'll level up, but there's a very strong chance that we end up just winning this game from damage since our opponent is down to 1. We could have tried to go for it if I wanted to use that repost here, but my concern was that if they had a combat trick or something, then I've wasted the only barrier left in my hand. So this is just like the conservative play. So there's the Jinx. I have a sneaking suspicion that they're going to try to play a card and then use the axe to discard the other one. So when they play this other card, we're going to respond by bouncing Jinx again. Alright, well, they're playing the Axe first. So instead, we are just going to do it like this anyway and bounce them. We might even get a concession out of this. Because now they don't even have to replay their Jinx.
These woods protect their own.
Again, we'll just further develop. They're at 1
Our
health.
lands need us.
And we're going to go straight to combat here, just like this.
Enforced equilibrium.
Oh, and they're giving us the old GG, so we will as well. And that's it. So you didn't get to see the alternate win condition, but you can see what the game plan is, right? If your opponent has more bodies, then you just kind of keep challenging with Fiora, and that's how you rack up the kills on her. And so if they try to stall you out, you can win very quickly with Fiora, and if the lanes are open, just keep pressuring, because those 1-drops, I know it sounds silly, those 1-drops snowball incredibly hard in my experience with this deck, and you got to see it. So anyway, that's it for this video. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you will consider subscribing, and I will catch you in future videos.